What happens when science turns familiar things into something you've never seen before? From brain maps built with geometry to fossils, birds, and even office chairs, these are the facts that change the way the world looks. A theorem about circles can help flatten the brain into a map. That sounds impossible until you see the geometry. The human brain has a curved surface, full of folds and bends. Flattening it directly would distort the layout. The circle packing theorem gives a controlled way to arrange circles so they fit together. Those circles can stand in for brain regions in a mathematical layout. Once the regions are arranged this way, the curved surface can be turned into a flattened map. The result is a cleaner view of how the pieces sit together. A dense brain surface becomes a readable geometric image. On the screen, a circle layout can replace a tangled curve with a map. A 2011 book classifies office chairs like species. One page can make a swivel chair look like a specimen tray. The book is a taxonomy of office chairs, by Jonathan Oliveras. It borrows post-Linnaean classification, a method used to sort living things after Linnaeus. Instead of species, it studies a furniture typology, a system for grouping forms. The chair is sorted by shape, structure, and small design changes. That turns design history into a sequence of mutations and breakthroughs. A seat, a backrest, and will start to read like stages in a visual experiment. The result is a familiar object with ancestry. A desk chair on the floor can feel connected to a whole shelf of classified furniture. A fossil fruit from Coelruteria dulceri may have floated like a balloon after pollination. Pollination came first. When pollen reached the flower and the fruit began to develop. The fossil pictured is Coelruteria dulceri. Instead of staying rigid, the fruit likely inflated. That change would have made a bigger surface for the wind to catch. With more surface area, the fruit could drift farther from the parent plant. The seeds had a better chance to spread by air. So a fruit became a tiny wind vehicle, carrying seeds through open air. A fossil on stone can still point to that drifting shape. Robert Van de Graaff was headed for football at Alabama, then injuries kept him off the field. At Alabama, that closed one path. He was still a student, but the football route was no longer open. So he turned to physics instead. Later, he became the inventor of the Van de Graaff generator, a machine that builds very high voltage. That machine could send electric charge to a metal dome. In demonstrations, it made physics feel huge and visible. A football setback at Alabama ended up pointing him toward a lab bench, or a generator waited under bright lights. One person is credited with starting Armenia's tomato heritage. That is Anahit Ananyan, linked to a whole tradition of tomatoes. The key idea is cultivation and selection. Farmers choose plants, save seeds, and keep growing the ones that fit local conditions. Over time, those choices can shape a heritage. In this case, Ananyan is credited with helping begin Armenia's tomato heritage through repeated growing. The result is bigger than one harvest. Tomatoes become part of regional identity, and the crop carries memory from one season to the next. So a simple crop can become cultural history. In Armenia, that history sits in tomatoes, seeds, and the name Anahit Ananyan. In 2018, the black-rumped magpie was upgraded to a full species. One bird, one new label. That change sits inside taxonomy, the system scientists use to place living things. For birds, species recognition sets a boundary. In ornithological classification, a bird can move from a broader group to its own line when evidence supports splitting it. In 2018, that boundary was drawn for the black-rumped magpie. Once the split is accepted, scientists count it separately. That changes comparisons in bird lists, surveys, and field guides. So a black-rumped magpie is no longer just a variation inside a larger label. It stands as its own name on a checklist, beside other birds. This Florentine crabapple was once treated as a natural hybrid species. One plant sat in botany as if it came from two lineages at once. In plant classification, a hybrid is a plant read as coming from mixed ancestry. Here, the crabapple's traits seem to point that way. Later, botanical re-evaluation changed the interpretation. The same crabapple was no longer treated as a natural hybrid species. That shift matters because species boundaries can move with new evidence. A plant once placed on one side of the line can end up on another. So one apple became a lesson in taxonomy. In a herbarium drawer, a name can change when the evidence changes. In Uruguay, paleontologists found remains from the largest rodent ever known. A rodent skeleton, not a giant predator, sat in the fossil layer. The bones came from an extinct mammal, preserved long after the animal disappeared. Uruguay's fossil record has been studied through paleontology, especially in quaternary faunas. Paleontology reads those remains like measurements. From bone shape and joint surfaces, scientists estimate size and compare it with living rodents. The result is a scale shift. South America once hosted rodents far bigger than any alive today. Uruguay also preserves other megafauna mammals, including Lestodon and Glyptodon. That fossil sits beside Uruguay's wider record of extinct giants, from Notioamastodon to Doedicurus. One jawbone can redraw a whole grassland, resting in a drawer of labeled stone. If one of these changed how you see an object, a species, or a fossil, you're exactly the kind of viewer this channel is for. Subscribe and tell us which fact hit hardest.